Hello, and welcome to the Thrive and Elevate Grant Application Information Session for Nonprofits. The Thrive and Elevate grants are programs of the Economic Development Department's Cultural Arts Division. The Economic Development Department oversees initiatives to assist the development and creative industries in Austin and support the community's unique cultural identity and vitality. This information session will provide details about the Thrive and Elevate grants for nonprofits. The grants are funded through the hotel occupancy tax, and all grants funded with the hotel occupancy tax are required to culminate in public activities that are open and advertised to Austin residents, visitors, and tourists, promote and enhance the city of Austin as a cultural destination, and occur in Austin or its extraterritorial jurisdiction. During this webinar, we will review the Thrive and Elevate for Nonprofits program highlights, applicant eligibility, funding priorities, eligible activities and expenses, scoring rubrics, a summary timeline of the application cycle, and information on how to apply and receive additional application assistance. The Elevate grant seeks to provide funding in support of arts and cultural organizations, individual artists, and creative businesses, also known as arts groups, that provide culturally vibrant and diverse artistic content for the public. This funding broadly supports the creative, administrative, and operational expenses incurred in the production of creative activities and events for the people of Austin and its tourists. This investment in Austin's cultural producers will elevate the city's diverse arts and cultural tourism sector, amplify equity, and prioritize inclusive programming. Priority will be given to those who have been at immediate risk of cultural erasure and displacement within Austin, and/or have been institutionally marginalized and underfunded by the City of Austin's Cultural Arts Division. Elevate has a one-year contract term, and applicants may request between $15,000 and $80,000 per year. More specifically, 501c arts organizations may request between $40,000 and $80,000, and individual and creative businesses may request between $15,000 and $30,000. We estimate at least 200 contracts will be awarded in this program cycle, with 125 of these grants going to 501c arts organizations and 100 grants going to individual artists and/or creative businesses. The Thrive grant seeks to intentionally invest in and develop arts and cultural organizations that are of, by, and for communities at immediate risk of cultural erasure and displacement within Austin, and/or have been institutionally marginalized and underfunded by the City of Austin's Cultural Arts Division. Through a combination of funding, peer leadership, and a networking model, this program will make Austin's diverse cultures more widely visible and accessible by providing funds to sustain and grow organizations that are deeply rooted in and reflective of those key constituencies. To directly address historic inequities in our own funding models and meet our goals of advancing racial equity, priority will be given to arts and cultural organizations that are significant contributors to the city's creative vibrancy and heritage. Thrive has a 2-year contract term, and applicants may request between $85,000 and $150,000 per year. We estimate that approximately 35 contracts will be awarded in this 2-year program cycle. Elevate for nonprofit eligibility requirements are 1, be a 501c nonprofit arts organization of any budget size. Note that the applicant must have their own 501c status, though. They cannot use a fiscal sponsor status to apply to the Elevate nonprofit track. Sponsor projects must apply as an individual artist or creative business for Elevate. 2, be headquartered in the Austin Metropolitan Statistical Area, also known as the MSA. 3, have a minimum of 1 year creative production in Austin. 4, all activities funded must be in compliance with hotel occupancy tax statute. And 5, applicants cannot be receiving current city support for the same activities. Also, City of Austin employees are not eligible to apply for Austin Economic Development funding opportunities. Thrive eligibility requirements are be a 501c nonprofit arts organization of any budget size. Similarly, the applicant must have their own 501c status for Thrive. 2, they must be headquartered in the Austin MSA. 3, they must have a minimum of 5 years of creative production in Austin. Note that you don't need to have been a nonprofit for 5 years, just have 5 years of creative production in Austin, and the 501c status must be active at time of application. 4, all activities funded must be in compliance with the hotel occupancy tax statute. And 5, applicants can also not be receiving current city support for the same activities. And as stated earlier, City of Austin employees are not eligible for Austin Economic Development Department funding opportunities. Funding priorities. So priority will be given to organizations that serve and are accountable to communities that are at immediate risk of cultural erasure and displacement within Austin. This includes organizations that directly and substantively serve Black and African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic and Latino, Middle Eastern, and Pacific Islander communities. Priority will also be given to organizations that are representative of communities that experience other forms of institutional marginalization. This includes organizations that directly and substantively serve LGBTQ plus IA or IA plus and or disability communities. In addition, priority will be given to organizations that embody a measurable commitment to the equity goals and principles of the City of Austin's Equity Office through representation and leadership and program development. Priority will be given to applicants that have faced barriers in obtaining institutional resources and assets. To better understand the funding priorities, it's important to understand the definition of key constituencies. So key constituencies are the people deeply impacted by your work, which may include your audience, community members, and or participating artists and administrators. These key constituencies are identified and named by the applicant. For the purpose of this program, or these programs, key constituencies that will be prioritized are community groups, as I mentioned above, that are at immediate risk of cultural erasure and displacement within Austin, and or have been institutionally marginalized and underfunded by the City of Austin's Cultural Arts Division. Any references to key constituencies and a program application and scoring rubric will be referring to the community groups that meet this definition and that have been directly identified by the applicant. I want to note that audience served is not the same as key constituencies, as the audience served may or may not include communities that are at immediate risk of cultural erasure and displacement within Austin, or they may not have also been institutionally marginalized. If you discover additional terms that you are unfamiliar with, please reference the additional program details document, which has a glossary of terms, or feel free to reach out to the cultural funding staff. To better understand the Thrive Grant program in particular, it helps to understand what a cultural institution is. The cultural funding programs define a cultural institution as an entity whose primary mission is to present and produce arts and cultural activities, has a high degree of financial sustainability, and is seen as an indispensable part of a community. It is important to note that an organization can be an indispensable part of the community, but has not received the historical financial support necessary to achieve cultural institution status as defined here. A cultural institution will have reliable and consistent access to multiple types of these hallmark attributes, including, but not limited to, multiple paid full-time staff, including dedicated development and marketing staff, often with access to employment benefits such as health insurance and or paid leave, an endowment and or cash reserves, a diversity of operating support grants, consistent corporate sponsorship and private donations, steady earned income, representing a significant percentage of the annual budget, a permanent location in the form of owned property or a long-term, like 10-year or more rent-controlled lease, a diversity of capital campaign or physical infrastructure funds, such as grants, government contracts, individual and other corporate campaigns, and fee-based memberships to industry networks such as Americans for the Arts. The goal of Thrive is to help organizations work towards these sustaining attributes over time. As stated earlier, Elevate nonprofit applicants may request between $40,000 and $80,000 per year, and Thrive applicants may request between $85,000 and $150,000 per year. There is no matching requirement for either of these programs. If awarded, applicants can choose to decline any portion of the funds they don't need. For both programs, applicants will provide a one-year project budget as part of their application, demonstrating how they plan to use the funds. We strongly encourage grant recipients to pay all who work on the project an equitable wage. Eligible activities include operations related to the organization's ability to produce public events, exhibitions, performances, workshops, classes, and camps that include a public performance or exhibition, public art projects that are installed on public or private property and accessible to the public, and then for Thrive only, activities related to the sustainability and growth of the organization. Activities that are not eligible for these grants include activities occurring outside of the Austin 10+1 council districts or Austin's ETJs. For example, events occurring at venues located in Cedar Park, Round Rock, or Georgetown, as well as other Central Texas cities besides Austin, would not be eligible. Activities that are not accessible to tourists, like performances in public school assemblies or private members-only events, would also not be eligible. Fundraisers, benefits, or activities offered for the sole purpose of raising money in excess of the value of programs or services delivered are not eligible. Proposals that do not include a public event, for example, proposals to purchase equipment or activities like filming and editing without a public presentation component, are not allowed, and activities that occur outside of the contract period are also not eligible. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list of ineligible activities. Please review the additional program details on our website for more information on acceptable uses of these grant funds. Eligible project costs include payment to people including project administrators and artists, venue and space rental, marketing expenses, equipment rental, insurance, and most production-related expenses for public events. Additionally, Thrive will fund costs related to organizational improvement and sustainability. This might include expanding the public programming and audience, expanding a reliable space for planning and presenting work, establishing new and/or more diversified revenue sources. Specific examples of eligible expenses are administrative and creative costs for public cultural activities, costs to improve your organization's ability to produce cultural events, insurance costs, subscription costs or licensing fees for software, and some capital expenditures are also allowed. Capital expenditures include, but are not limited to, the purchase, repair, or renovation of equipment or property like speaker systems, theater sets, artwork, etc. These are just examples and not an exhaustive list. Please note that funding cannot be used to buy real estate property, and any single capital expenditure over $2,000 must be pre-approved by the staff contract administrator to ensure compliance with the contract and city policy. Ineligible project costs include, but may not be limited to, donations or regranting of grant funds, the purchase of equipment. However, equipment rentals are allowed. Expenses paid more than 60 days before the start of the contract or after the end of the contract. Food and hospitality expenses must be pre-approved by city staff. Expenses related to starting a new business entity are not allowed, including registering your business as an LLC or applying to the IRS to become a 501c nonprofit. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list of ineligible expenses. Please review the additional program details for more information on acceptable uses of these grant funds. The Thrive cohort model will center on the experience and expertise of the funded organizations. It would also prioritize organizations' time and availability, limit burdensome reporting requirements. Cohort participation will essentially be to meet with a Cultural Arts Division staff to discuss their organizational improvement goals for year one and a path to becoming a cultural institution. Additional meetings may occur as goals evolve. It will also include tailored support, which might include optional trainings, networking events, and other opportunities as relevant to identified goals. Each opportunity will be developed based on interests of cohort participation. Participate in peer leadership opportunities by sharing expertise with others in the cohort. Cultural Arts Division staff will also seek new ways to promote the work and expertise of the Thrive cohort to audiences within and outside of Austin. And the model will also provide feedback to help improve future iterations of the program. This is our Thrive rubric. We'll run down the categories. We have key constituencies and creative mission, 15 points. History of service, 15 points. Cultural leadership, 30 points. Cultural activities, 10 points. Intersectionality and inclusion, 10 points. Accessibility, 10 points. Language accessibility, 10 points. Marketing, 10 points. Budget, 10 points. And cultural institution status is 10 points. That gives you a total of 130 for the Thrive scoring rubric. The Elevate rubric has the same or similar questions with slightly different point structures, and we'll just review those. It's key constituencies and creative mission, 15 points. History of leadership, 10 points. Cultural leadership, 15 points. Cultural activities is 10 points. Intersectionality and inclusion is 10 points. Accessibility is 10 points. Language accessibility is also 10 points. Marketing, 10 points, and budget, 10 points. So the Elevate scoring rubric is a total of 130. You can find the full scoring rubric with more information about this criteria in the program guidelines on our website. Applications will be reviewed and scored by a panel. Applications that meet the requirements outlined in these guidelines and receive the highest scores will be recommended for funding. The number of awards that are approved is subject to the availability of funds. Applicants will only receive points that apply to their proposal. We anticipate that most applications will not receive the maximum number of points available. The Thrive and Elevate application opened Tuesday, June 25th at 10 a.m. Central Time. Applications will be due on Tuesday, July 23rd by 7 p.m. Central Time via the online submittable application. The panel review process will occur in August and September, and awards will be announced by September 20th. To apply, you must visit www.austintexas.gov/elevate or www.austintexas.gov/thrive. On our website, you will find the Thrive and Elevate guidelines for nonprofits and additional program details documents, a preview of application questions, the application link, instructions to get started on submittable, and instructions on how to get help. We are transitioning all grant applications to the submittable application platform. Applications submitted after July 20th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Central Time will not be accepted. Paper and emailed applications will also not be accepted. We strongly recommend that you draft all narrative question responses on your own separate document so you can easily paste the answers into the online application. The Thrive and Elevate applications will have the following required document uploads. All applicants must include up to 3 work samples demonstrating the programs offered and/or impact of the programs on their primary constituents. All sample materials provided should be concise and representative of the applicant's primary programming. Work samples might include bios of key artists and creative decision makers, artwork samples, promotional materials, programs, season brochures, newsletters, etc. Collages of representative materials will also be accepted as a single item of documentation. Links to video and audio clips should not be more than 5 minutes total. Panelists will be instructed to only review 5 minutes of the video and audio samples submitted. Also, website and social media pages can be provided as work samples. Organization's IRS determination letter will also be a required upload, which indicates when the IRS approved the organization's 501c status. And finally, a copy of the most recently completed IRS Form 990. If the applicant has recently received the IRS nonprofit designation, please submit the most recently completed fiscal year financial statement. If you would like help with your application, you can make an appointment with cultural funding specialists for a one-on-one application support by also signing up for one of our drop-in application assistance sessions with cultural funding staff, by joining the cultural funding staff for an upcoming open office hours at 10 a.m. to 12 every Tuesday through the application deadline. No appointment is needed for the open office hours. Open office hours will be available online and in person. And our third-party administrators at the Long Center are available to provide technical assistance with the submittable application platform. And for information on how to access these support opportunities can be found on our website. Thank you for your time and participation. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact any member of the Cultural Arts Funding team. For technical support, please contact the Long Center. You can also find more information about this and other Cultural Arts Division programs on www.austincreates.com. Good luck with your application.